This is Cult Connections presents Cult Confessions. Every episode, your host Ian, that's me, is joined by a new guest to discuss a classic film. The only thing is, Ian is only now getting round to watching them, from the scariest horrors to hilarious comedies and everything in between. So come and enjoy Ian's Cult Confessions. Hello, it's Ian here. Welcome back to my occasional series, Cult Confessions. And back by popular demand, it is Mark Planty Plant. How are you, Mark?
Hi there, Ian. Yeah, I'm here with my lack of front teeth. I'm here to shoot you from the top of a rock. Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Thanks. thanks for having me back on. I had a rare time last time, so I'm absolutely made up to be talking. What a conversation we're going to have today.
Yeah, very much so. And so as we say, this is a film that I've never watched. I try to wing it that I'm some kind of film, expert who's got loads of knowledge. And I'm sure listeners are going to be like, well, why have you never watched this? And yeah, there is loads of films I've never ever watched. However, today we are talking about 1972, John Bowman going on a river trip with Deliverance. Now, for you, Mark, this is quite a major film for you. It's something that I think means quite a lot. And so, would you like to tell me about that?
Yeah, I think I've probably seen this no more than a handful of times all the way through. It's not one of those that you'd kind of pick up on a Sunday afternoon while you're eating your Sunday dinner.
Well, funnily enough, I did watch it on a Sunday afternoon. But yeah, you're right. It's not really.
Did it put you off your pork dinner?
I think actually I did have pork. Yeah.
I wouldn't have done after watching this, but for me, it's actually the start of our podcast. Whilst we haven't covered it, the idea for a podcast or YouTube channel, as it was at the time, came from a discussion back in maybe this time 20 years ago, not long after YouTube had kind of come out, where we talked about maybe we could learn 100 things from Deliverance, John Bowman's Deliverance, and come up with, almost a talk-through track. Because at the time, as I'm sure you're aware, DVDs, the big thing was director's commentaries. And if you're anything like me, and probably you're not in this regard, I couldn't get enough of directors and actors' commentaries, learning all the new stuff. And we thought perhaps we could create something like that people would listen to while they watch the movie. It could be light-hearted, it could be serious, whatever. And over the years, that just turned into what our podcast is now.
So why did it take you there 20 years in and not?
Well, you've listened to the podcast, and there's nobody kind of gets what my vision is, like John does. John understands kind of when to make the joke, when to be furious, when to be disgusted, and understands and has understood as the show's gone on how important it is that we try and get 100 things from everything. And I don't think I could find anybody. I'm sure there's loads of people out there that would kind of fit the bill, but not quite like John does.
I absolutely get that. I know that. So for me, this is it. This is a film that I actually remember being a teenager, and all my friends had watched, and I had a group of friends who liked to watch, gory films or films that were films that had something about them, and certainly this one does. But for some reason, I just never, not that it didn't. They sort of appeal at all. I just never watched it. Just never got round to it, and I must admit, as the years go on, there's a very sort of stubborn streak in me that says if people go on about certain films and how great they are, you must watch that. I'm not going to watch it. I'm just going to go, nah, you're all right. I'm not watching it. I'm going to stick stick to watching the stupid sci-fi films. Thanks very much. Although there are some sci-fi films that also fit into that their category that I'm not going to watch them because everyone says that I have to watch them. So this one certainly.
It's funny you should. Sorry, it's funny you should mention that, Ian, because I was exactly the same with the Shawshank Redemption. It took me until probably about 4 years ago to watch the Shawshank Redemption because everybody went on about how good it was. And you know what? They're not wrong. It's a very good film. It's not that good though. It's not. It's not sneak it into my drawer at work good. You know, one of the guys snuck the VHS into my drawer at work and said, "There you go. Just take that home whenever you're ready," like it was porn or something. You know, and I never did. And then one day, I think Rachel, when I was up visiting before we were together, Rachel bought it second hand, like this charity shop find, and we sat and watched it. Yeah, that's all right. That's yeah. I don't hate it, but I didn't really see what all the fuss was about. So I'm interested to know if I can't wait to find out what you think about this. But specifically, was it worth the wait?
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, that's a good point, and I think I'm going to let my views come out as we go on. But anyway, so 1972, their sort of Deliverance. So as I've said, it's John their Bowman. Now this is a funny one. So this is the director who's a lot of other films I've watched a lot, and I've watched more than once. So Zardoz I love, Sean Connery in his leathered, underpants. I mean, that's a great their film. Hope and their glory. That's a lovely film. I really like that film. I think that's
It's a great bit.
and many others. But this one, never watched it. So written by James Dickey from his own the novel, with a core cast of John Voight, Burt Reynolds, Ned, the Beatty, and Ronnie Cox. And basically it's four friends, and they're going up this the river. So it's a sort of weekend away. They're going to go up the river. Because the river's going to be flooded, and it's going to become a lake. So they wanted to visit it one last time. Now, first of all, what I'd like to talk about is there is a flaw to this film. There's a quite obvious flaw in it. If you know the film, and I would imagine everybody listening probably does know the film, things go wrong in this film for the four main their characters, and throughout through stages things keep on going wrong, and they're for them. And I'm watching it at the start, and I'm like, there's a simple thing wrong with this film that would have meant that actually they would have had a lovely weekend away on their boats, fishing, shooting, having a nice time. And that's the fact that the Burt Reynolds hasn't got his moustache.
Absolutely, he's naked without it.
And what makes it worse is that John the Voight, who I usually see as being cleanly shaven in his roles, he is sporting the moustache. So I'm sorry, you cannot tell me that prime Burt Reynolds with his lovely facial hair is not going to solve it all, and it's all going to be fine. So yeah, it just goes wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it starts badly and gets worse. For me, I think if they just weren't absolute arseholes, because they're all awful at the start, except perhaps Ronnie Cox, who seems like the most genuine of them all. The rest of them it made me hate townies, of which I am one. You know, they're just not nice to anybody that they meet. They're piss takers, and they try and do everything on the cheap. They kind of get what they deserve to an extent, perhaps.
Maybe a little bit, yeah. Yeah. Now I'm gonna get um actually. So what we're gonna do for this is we have a little the top five they're going on. So and because Bert is clean there shaven and John Voight sports the lovely mustache. What we're going to do is our top five film mustaches. So, in ascending order, Mark, who's at number five?
Uh, I've started off, I think, strong. Maybe it dips in the middle, but it's got to be Sam Elliott as the stranger in The Big Lebowski. I love that moustache and would love to think I would get away with one. And it helps that he's got that fantastic southern drawl. The dude, he abides. You know, that kind of works for me. But that moustache, beaut.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, yeah. I think you're right there. He's one of those actors where if he didn't have it, you would probably not actually recognise him, or you'd be sitting and thinking there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm going all the way back to the early 80s with this one. And this is actually an actor whose voice you might know they're better than his face. But I am going for Harry Shearer in This Is Spinal Tap as Derek Smalls, the bass player, because his moustache is absolutely fantastic. I just love it.
It's a true Zardoz job, isn't it?
It's the proper big floppy monster on his face. He actually suits it really well.
Absolutely.
And what I love about one of the things that I love about their Spinal Tap is that you know that the actors are just absolutely perfect in it. I love the airport scene where the Derek Smalls has got. I think it's a courgette or something down his pants, but he's
covered in tinfoil.
But he's sporting the Plymouth Argyle shirt, I believe, for some reason.
Do you know what? I thought it was a Shrewsbury Town shirt. Right? Yeah, I'm probably wrong.
I'm gonna have to Google that one. I think
I'm just doing it as we speak. Shrewsbury Town, 1980
nice
to 81.
One, excellent, good stuff.
Yeah, it's a look. It's definitely a look. And if I didn't love my football club quite like I do, like an idiot, I would sport one of those on the regular. Although I'd probably need a 6XL, whereas I think he's probably in a small boys.
Now, for going back to the film there that we're actually talking about. Now,
yes, let's.
Now I'm going to get there serious for this bit now, and I think that there's a very good sort of reason for this. Now, I remember with my friends, and I see it a lot, and whenever this film's sort of mentioned a lot, and maybe not so much these sort of days, but it's always made light of. There's a certain scene that's made into the joke, and folk think it's funny to say how we're squealing like a pig and such like. Like it's a funny thing, and in all our horror films and thrillers and all these kind of films that we like, sexual violence is often a thing, and although male sort of rape isn't as sort of prominent, it's still there, and it's a really it was funny this scene, and I was kind of glad it was fairly near there the start. So 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 poor Ned, their Beatty gets raped by this, um, their local when they're halfway up the river, and it's you don't actually see anything, but there's just that feeling. It's brutal and it's horrid and it scars him and really 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 powerful though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is absolutely, and I would be astonished if we couldn't between us. I mean, we won't if we couldn't name 10 times that hasn't been taken off in something, in a film or in a TV show or something. And I would assume that of those 10 times, probably the vast majority of them were a comedy kind of skit or a section, a light-hearted section. And there's nothing light-hearted
No.
about this at all. It does it, and I seem to have remembered, even though I've seen it a number of times, I've probably not watched it in over 10 years. I seem to have remembered that this was at the very very end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was kind of this bit happened maybe with 20 minutes to go, but it happens exactly as you say, almost midway, or it kind of ends, and we're midway through the movie, and we've still got a huge chunk of dealing with the fallout, for the want of a better term, of that kind of happening, and it's it's awful and it's brutal, and that's the best way to look at it, and it need. Yeah, I think it's very dirty. I think that it's the leaves and the dirt on the ground, and the kind of, I don't mean to put too fine a point on it, the kind of the pushing Ned Beatty into the ground and yelling at him, screaming at him, and even so the John Voight bit with the what is it? Is it a belt?
It's a belt.
He's tied him by the neck to, and he almost loses consciousness struggling against that to help his friend. So you realise that John Voight does want to help him. John Voight tries everything he can to get his mate out of this situation, but there's a gun pointed on him, and Ned Beatty just what would you do? You wouldn't be able to do anything because it's either that or you are killed. And it's absolutely brutal.
And I think just really they're sort of powerful, and in a way I was sort of dreading that bit. We hadn't watched the film, but I knew this scene was in sort of there, and I was sort of dreading it. And I'm not going to say I liked the scene. I like this film overall, but it's not a scene that you can like, but it's a scene that it needs to be there. It makes sense. It's really powerful. And it's funny because you tied it in with the start mark, and you're right. They come over as arseholes. They're driving up to the river, and they're going to get their boats and things like that. And they actually speak about the river is going to be raped. How the environment is going to be raped, and they use that word, and I was just like, yeah, you are actually a bunch of arseholes. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not very nice. Just but so, but thinking about the film and listening to like I remember friends who would make jokes about this scene and what the film was all about. I was actually expecting that the whole film was going to be like this, and there was more sort of dreadful stuff there to come. I was almost they're relieved by the end that actually that was it. But yeah,
I found, and I know we'll come to it, but I found the end on this watch at least, the kind of the fallout of what we experienced that's going to come in the kind of the next part, and it leading into the third act was really difficult to watch. Was really kind of edge of my seat, and I think because it'd been so long since I'd seen it, I'd forgotten that there's this whole web, web of lies and getting caught
Yeah.
up kind of in this web of lies and recovering from trauma that they cover. And I'd completely blanked that out. I'd just forgotten it existed, and that's really tough. That kind of post, that dealing with something awful and loss and all that kind of stuff is really bad. I think Ronnie Cox gets a really hard show in this. I think Ronnie Cox is the hardest done to in this whole movie.
Now, well, actually, this is a good point because so moving on from that scene, so what we will sort of talk about is they're the actors. So and one of the things that I like to do when I'm watching a film for the first time is not to actually do too much sort of research or look up the film anywhere. I'm just going to stick the film on and watch it. And I'm seeing the actors' names come up. Like I already knew who was in it, but I think Ronnie Cox is fourth on the bill. And I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, oh, that's really really great. I hadn't actually recognised Ronnie Cox by that time, so the film had finished, and I'm looking it up, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is uh, the guy out of RoboCop. They're I'm like, what? Really? Have I missed him?
Were you thinking, Cohagen, the people, they need air? You're absolutely right. And I turned to Rachel partway through the movie and I said, God, I forgot Peter Fonda was in this. I was certain it was Peter Fonda on this watching. I mean, he doesn't not look like Peter Fonda, but he quite blatantly isn't.
But I was.
It's the guy out of Beverly Hills Cop.
But I was like, wait a minute, that's who that is. He's absolutely brilliant. There's a great scene after where he dies, isn't there? And he's I think he's stuck. I think he's on he surfaced from the river, and he's either stuck on a rock or he's on their sort of branch, and he's dead, but his arms round the back of his head, and it just looks awful. Yeah. I looked it up. He's actually double jointed, so he was. Yeah.
All right. Wow.
So he's. So that was a real shot. That was his. He'd sort of. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because that looked awful. I was like that. And I'm thinking, God, that's a real good. This sort of prop of him, that they've made.
Yeah, like a practical effect. Yeah.
No, but that's actually his arm, and he's been able to stick it right there, the back of his head, because he's double jointed. It's like amazing. But I think on that lighter note, so let's move to number 4 on our list of the cinematic mustaches. So who's at number 4, Mark?
For me, it's Bill the Butcher from the Gangs of New York, which it's suitably Dali-esque with its kind of upturned kind of points at the end. And is there absolutely anybody he can't play either? Of course, he's a fine actor, but yeah, that's a mustache worthy of a Scorsese film.
That's a well sort of groomed one, isn't it? Where he spends, a good. There are a good few, moments making sure that it looks absolutely, perfect, doesn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah. Before he cleavers some Irish blokes, that absolutely. Yeah.
Again, I'm going back to the 1980s. This is maybe for some of their listeners a more obscure one. Mark probably knows I've been they're watching a lot of their horror films recently, especially their Lucio, their Fulci films. So I have watched an absolute spate of them. I'm going back to 1981 to Black Cat, and then this is Al the Cliver. Now he's got a reasonable role in the the this one. He's in lots of their Fulci films and lots of their their sort of Italian horrors and their sci-fi films and all that. He plays the magnificently named Sergeant Wilson. It's not Dad's Army.
Don't tell him, Graham.
It's not Dad's Army, but so he's um, their sort of policeman, and he is sporting a lovely their sort of tash.
Kind of ginger tash.
This is a really weird film because it made me think of Hot their Fuzz quite a lot. So it's set in an English village. Their sort of police are there. It's about their cat who somehow goes around there murdering people. It's they're typically.
I'm just adding it to my list.
Oh, it's a great film. I really liked it. Yeah, I'll their Cliver sports an absolutely lovely their tash in this one. Now moving on now, I think one thing that I found from this film is that it creates atmosphere really well and there's sort of tension almost right from there to start. And it doesn't really let up, does it? It just, if anything, actually builds and builds and builds. And even at the end, you never really get a sense of sort of closure, do you?
No. It doesn't. You don't feel safe. You don't feel you don't feel comfortable, and specifically there's this bit where this hand comes up through the water, which looks great.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, the lighting on this hand and it's kind of semi-darkness comes up, and then he wakes up and it's all a dream. But then the very last shot of the movie is of course that same shot, but without the hand coming up. So you're waiting, and it just sits there for long enough, and then the titles start to stream over the water, don't they? Certainly the version I was kind of, how long have I got to watch this? Is that hand coming up? Is that hand coming up? And I turned it off before I saw it, and I'm not sure if the hand does come up. Actually, I can't remember.
It's quite interesting.
But
so because one of the things that we always look at, I think, and one of the great, they're sort of cinematic, they're sort of tools that we have for actually building their sort of tension and things like that, isn't actually present in this film because there's no their sort of music at all apart from the banjos, that their famous scene, and it does it so well. I actually loved the fact that there was no sort of music.
Yeah, it felt like reality, didn't it? The only kind of music that you have is actually within the movie. There's nothing in the background. There's nothing to make you think, okay, that's put in there to help build tension, or that's put in there to give us a jump scare. It's scary in a different way.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I really loved that. I really loved the fact that it was all sort of natural. There was the river. There was a little bit of forest sort of sounds, but it was really, really natural. And it is funny because I think one thing that the film is famous for is actually the music, which is the banjo scene. But that's about the only music in it.
Yeah, that goes on for ages, by the way. I didn't realise quite how long that scene went on. And all the way through, I'm kind of like, okay, it's getting to the bit where they kind of play together now. But no, it isn't. And all the way through, they're like, oh, what's he doing now? Oh, he's playing that bloody guitar again. But it is good. And then you see that kid again later on, and he doesn't recognise them. it's almost like the only one that he recognised was he didn't even recognise the guy playing the guitar, just the guitar. And then when he tries to give him some money or tries to get him to play again, he just looks away, and you kind of there's something not right here. They go to a house at one point, and there's an old lady there, and there's a child with visible, very visible deformities, and that added just a layer of creepiness that you got in those original, those original kind of backwoods type of films like this, even like The Hills Have Eyes, which is very, very disturbing and probably just as gruesome, but maybe comedy gruesome almost, Whereas this is adult gruesome. Could you see what I'm kind of getting at? This is kind of like this could happen to any of us, but The Hills Have Eyes couldn't. It's cartoonish, outlandish kind of thing. So there's a lot kind of going on that they're involved in, but they're just this small part of this huge world of potentially corrupt police and awful guys that have got stills up in the mountain and go shooting when they shouldn't, and go drinking when they shouldn't, and car break at yards. And there's a reason this whole place is being put underwater, and it's not just for the dam. It's because this community's rotten to the core potentially.
Definitely. But it does it so well, and without like we say, with the absence of sort of music and things like that, it does it on in such a great way, and actually one that feels sort of natural. And again, one thing that I really loved was visually. I mean, this is a great place to make a film. It looks really, really lovely. I did, I went out and got the Blu-ray version, just to watch it, and the river looks absolutely lovely, and just a superb, visual film as well, and the scenes, going, going through the rapids and climbing up the rock faces and all that stuff, just done so well.
Yeah, and you can see why Boorman was picked to direct what he directed after this, because, as you say, the vistas and the sweeping shots and the wide lens shots and even the mid shots have still got a lot going on, and they're behind the trees, and they're in the woods. The action stuff was brilliant as well. I mean, there were points where I realised I was holding my breath, and I think in part it's probably because I knew that a lot of those scenes were done by the actors, because it was done on the cheap. That they got these, maybe you wouldn't say A-list actors, because I think Burt Reynolds, as an example, was just coming through. I think it might have been Ned Beatty's first,
I believe so,
proper film, first starring role. Yeah. So, but these guys were actors, so, and they got them to do their own stunts, which, other than Tom Cruise, the obvious one, you can't imagine asking, the current crop. I mean, you 100% couldn't imagine asking Statham to do, to do his own stunts on the rapids, could you?
Although he should be all right. I mean, he is Statham is he the Commonwealth diver? So at least he knows how to swim.
Well, good catch. Or at least knows how to fall into some water.
Exactly. But
or might not come back up.
But yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think Burt, the Reynolds does actually say, look, this was his sort of breakout. This was his. He certainly, I think, he felt that this was his best film, that he'd ever done. But I do believe that this was the one that actually launched him and let him do, the bigger films afterwards. So, which I think actually is a good point to go to Moustache number 3.
For me, and you knew I was going to pick this one, it's Paul Kersey, Charles Bronson in the Death Wish films. We've talked about 2 Death Wish films on our podcast, and I love Bronson. I think he is probably one of my favourite actiony kind of actors, and I love doing the impression, which kind of helps. But yeah, Kersey is a very interesting character with his wispy kind of ratty teenager moustache.
Great films. I actually, I think I need to do something, Bronson like at some point. I certainly need to dive into his back, their sort of catalogue, as it were. I think we've got plans there to maybe cover something, Mark. So we will definitely do that.
We have a discussion every day with a new idea. So there'll be something down the road somewhere.
There will be indeed. I know. So for me, number 3, I'm going actually, I think, just back to the end of the 1950s. An iconic English actor, one we know so well, and if you don't know him, you do know him. So he's one of those the character actors, as it were. This is the eternal genius that is Mr. Terry Thomas, and so
Ding dong,
ding dong, playing Raymond the Delaunay in School for Scoundrels, or actually in any film he's in, because he just basically, you imagine he was fairly much like that in their real life, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely, a cad and a bounder.
I'm sure he wasn't. I'm sure he was absolutely lovely and great there to work with. But I did feel, that I had to put in their fine old English, their gent there. So anyway, back to the Deliverance.
Yes.
And actually staying a bit light-hearted, I think I'm going to talk about, so us as British watchers of an American film, and obviously we watch a lot of their sort of American films, and we have friends over there, and we talk a lot about our favourite films. They're sort of movies of, obviously, as our friends like to call them. Which brings me on to the subject of dentistry. So, and it's always a running with this sort of joke, and I know the Austin Powers films make a joke of this, that British people's teeth are absolutely awful, but this one's not really a good advert there for their American their sort of dentistry, is it?
No, and there's the bit where the guy with the gun gets caught, and they do kill him. He does shoot him, and then he rolls him over and finds out it wasn't him because he's got a full set of teeth. And then John Voight seems to remember that there's such a thing as dentists in the States, and removes the two or four front teeth that were there, and that was a little bit of kind of. It was definitely him. I can assure you, it was definitely him without removing the teeth. I knew. And they like to. They do like to say that our and American listeners are to Ian's show. I'm not making too light of this, but at least in this country, we don't leave our poor and sick to die. So even if we do have bad teeth,
we may have their teeth, but you're absolutely right. We don't have to worry about actually, getting their sort of insulin or anything if we are a diabetic or whatever. However, saying that, Brexit's certainly. They've fucked up lots of things,
it's
isn't
coming.
it? So, our supermarket shelves are actually half their full there just now because there's no food. There's possibly no their sort of gas actually there to heat our homes for the winter coming. But Brit.
Welcome to Gilead. As we're experiencing it today.
So yeah, dentistry. Yeah, it's not a. This is not America's advert for the dentist at all, is it? So, I just
No,
need to
not even
move the
slightly.
cat off my notes. There you go.
That's all right. Mine's just about to jump up and do the same, so I wouldn't worry too much
Well,
about it.
you might actually hear it now. Funnily enough, the last time you were on, Mark, you could hear my other cat. So,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
the Charlie, aka Big, the Ginge could be heard in the background of our last episode. Ruby is in the room there with me just now. So we'll see. Oh, there he is.
There we go. Colin Robinson is
Yeah,
in the house as they say. Yeah, and I'm getting a good view of his bottom. Thanks, Colin
yeah,
Robinson. That's great.
yeah. Cats are lovely, aren't they?
Oh, they are absolutely. But it's I guess it's better than his breath, which brings us back to the teeth. One film I went to see at the cinema, Ian, I think I saw with a room full of men, and I shouldn't have done, was that movie Teeth, the American film Teeth, about the girl with what's his referred to as vagina
Oh
dentata,
right, yeah.
which is
Uh-huh.
teeth in the
Yeah.
downstairs bit. And yeah, that's not a film you want to watch with a theatre full of men. Or you do, maybe, if you don't like them. That was pretty
I'm
brutal. That
actually
one.
feeling a bit there, so just thinking about it. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Um, so moving on. What I'd like to ask you, Mark, is actually who's your favourite um the sort of actor out of the film, or who struck you as as being they're sort of particularly good.
Who's well? I mean, I've got a soft spot for all things Burt Reynolds, but I don't think he's the best thing in it. I really don't. For me, it's probably the two that have the most to do in the shape of Beatty and Voight. But I can't pick Voight because he's just an awful human being. He's this awful right wing racist human being. I think that disowned his daughter because she adopted a black child. I seem to
Yeah.
remember that a few years ago. But no, Ned Beatty's brilliant in it. He's fantastic. He's really kind of
Mm-hmm.
childlike in it, and then and he's pushed around by the others, and towards the end, John Voight kind of has him up against the wall, and he's like, "You told him, didn't you? You didn't. You went against what I told you to say." And he's like, "No, I didn't. No, I didn't." And I get it, but John Voight needs to chill out. They're in this together. Is the key thing. Yeah, I think Beatty's the standout for
It's
me.
funny you should mention. So you spoke about Beatty's their sort of childlike their sort of performance, and I absolutely get that there a lot. Now, one thing, and this is actually a bit of a Bowman their sort of trademark, and there is an actor right at the end of the film, um, and I'm not going to call it their sort of nepotism because he literally is just a child, but right at the end is they're Charlie Bowman, who
Oh
we
yeah,
might better know as pissing about on their motorcycles with his mates.
the the arsehole with the bike, as I would call him, if he ever comes on the telly. He has a moustache as well.
Yeah, I think he does now, doesn't he? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's quite
yeah.
funny. So he is in a few of his dad's films. He's actually in quite a few other films as well. So he wasn't just in his dad's film. However, his most fascinating role for me when I was looking him up, so the Charlie Boorman appeared in short-lived Grange Hill spin-off, The Tucker's Luck.
Did he
Yeah, he did.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Jesus, that's the second reference to Grange Hill we've had today in our
Oh yeah,
conversations.
because Bronson.
Bronson's got
Yeah.
to pay.
So yeah, so the lovely Michael there she had. If my mate Alan is actually listening, I know you're probably not Alan. But the Michael Sheard is one of Alan's absolute their favourites. He met him loads of times at the sort of Doctor Who things. So their sort of conventions, I think, are actually Michael Sheard met him so many times. He was basically like, "Oh, not fucking you again," is it? You know, so, yeah.
Stalker.
But apparently in a very nice way. Apparently, he was absolutely lovely. But we are sort of digressing here. So I think it's time, right? So who is in second spot for the mustache?
Good question. Second spot for the mustache is the inimitable and one of my heroes as a boy, Vincent Price.
Ooh,
I absolutely love Vincent Price with his little tiny kind of little just hairline mustache. He's he pulls it off better than anybody else. What a fantastic kind of campy kind of just one of the most well spoken American actors of his time as well.
yeah.
I think what a wonderful character actor who would today probably be lauded and awarded all the honours for making you know the kind of films that he made
Mm-hmm.
at the time.
He always,
Yeah.
it's funny, I think the last one I did watch him in, I watched him in the Monster Club, actually. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
haha.
yeah, yeah.
I, I, just because another podcast actually, they're actually doing that one soon, so I gave it a watch just so I could listen there to them. But he was absolutely lovely in that. He was warm and sort of charming, and yeah, you got a sense of actually probably what a lovely bloke he is. Um,
And whilst I don't really like, and this is contentious view for film fans, I don't really like Edward Scissorhands. I think he's the best thing in that, and the saddest part of that is seeing him die. What, probably 1 or 2 short years before he actually shuffled
yeah.
off the mortal coils.
Edward Scissorhands. Cult Confessions. Edward Scissorhands. never, never watched it. So anyway,
Well, somebody can come on and talk to you about how much they love that movie and how you should have watched that 30
people
years ago, but it won't be
people are
me.
probably frothing at the mouth um, as they are listening to see. You never watched Edward Scissorhands? No, no, I haven't. Anyway, for me, for number two, I actually either changed this. So you mentioned, Vincent Price and his small their mustache. I did have someone with a small mustache in here. I've actually swapped them out for someone who's got a lovely, fairly decent sized one. In most of his films, um, and that is their Mr. Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed himself, in Rocky and in just about
Yeah,
everything else. Um, yeah, and there's something about, because I can often sometimes a man with a moustache I find a little bit sort of creepy,
yeah, I know what you mean.
but
Yeah, yeah.
he absolutely carries it off in in with style and their sort of charm and such like. So uh, he is absolutely right up there in second spot.
Not ashamed to admit that I cry like a child every time in Rocky Four, every single time. When Creed gets finished off, it breaks my heart every single time. How can it even happen? Them bloody Russians, eh? Damn commies. If only that was an actual and an analogy for how things. Oh yeah, hang on. Yeah.
Super. But anyway, I think what I would like to do just now is actually just to sum up. So, the sort of Deliverance for me, I hadn't watched it. I'm really glad I did because you know what, I thought it was absolutely superb. I really, 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 really liked it. Um, you know, it was sort of tense from the off. It was serious. Um, it actually flew by. You know, it was really powerful as well. I'm still thinking about it. So I watched it on this Sunday. This is their Thursday. Um, I actually just rewatched half of it there yesterday. I only managed to get in there the first half again, so just up to um, where things really go wrong. Watched that again, and that's actually testament to itself. There, that I went back as soon as and they watched it again. But I absolutely loved it, Mark, and I can see why you picked it and why you love it as well.
Yeah, it's been parodied and it's been talked about and it's had all that, but still watching it, nothing comes close to watching it and seeing it happen. And there's only one bit, and I've got to pick a bit, but there is only one bit where I thought this has aged terribly, and it's the kind of where John Voight's character's climbing the rock face to get up to the kind of the top of the valley, and that looked a bit out of. I mean, that looked like it was an early '70s movie, Kel Surprise, but the rest of it looked smashing. You know, it felt tense, it felt difficult, and it was full of foreshadowing as well. Burt Reynolds' character. I've never had insurance. I don't believe in it. You knew you must have known something awful was going to happen to him just from that line and the bit where he's going on about, you know, and then there's no risk in life if you've got insurance. Well, you know, sorry, mate. Enjoy the next kind of 6 weeks in you know, in and out of a coma.
Yeah, with your leg absolutely smashed, smashed there to bits, and that actually, I must admit, I thought that looked brilliant. But apparently, it was a leg of lamb or something that's sticking out of his trousers.
All
Yeah,
right.
uh-huh.
Okay.
But yeah, it looked absolutely gruesome. Um, but of course, if Burt Reynolds had his trademark, their tash, none of this would have happened, and they would have had a nice
No,
weekend
it wouldn't.
away, and had lots of fun, and then gone back to lead their lives after that. And on that note, it's number one. Who is the number one cinematic mustache for you, Mark?
For me, it has to be somebody that gives hope to those people out there that cannot grow a mustache. It has to be the ever hilarious, the ever wonderful Groucho Marx with his painted on mustache for the best part. He is, the Marx brothers are probably the funniest, certainly the earlier kind of, I want to say, the Paramount movies, I think they were. The earlier movies are great, Duck Soup, and he was, wow, he could do it all. You know, quiz show host in his very, very last years. And, you know, he tread the boards with the brothers, however many there might have been throughout the years. You know, great, yeah, absolutely fantastic. And the man that, even though I don't smoke, makes me want to smoke cigars.
Fair enough. Good point. I'm actually going to talk about my favourite film of all their time. I think Mark should know what that is. It's the film that I've I've watched more than any other film. It's the film I've bought more than any other film. Um, it's it's a film that you either get or you don't, and if you don't get it, then well, that's that's your sort of tough shit, as it were. But for me, I'm actually going for someone who's possibly best known for, in his best known role, he doesn't have a moustache. In this one, he absolutely does. He says the immortal line of dialogue, "Freeze, you bloody bastard!" It's Timothy Dalton as Prince Baron in Flash Gordon. Number one. Love it.
Brilliant. He's a slasher of prices.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, cause a big fan of Cousin Sissy myself, and probably in my top 3. Yeah, definitely in my top 3 James Bonds. Might even be in my top 2. But don't go telling anybody. Don't go telling Spy Hard.
No, I think they. No, I think they absolutely love their sort of Dalton. I must admit, I'm kind of sad that we didn't get a third Dalton Bond film, just to, kind of round that off a bit, just so we had, one more. I think would have been there nice, but yeah,
He's M for me. Make him M. Get rid of Voldemort and make him M for the next few movies.
Well, who knows? Because it's a bold their future there. However, we're not talking James Bond, and I can't.
No, we're not. Sorry. Every time I derail.
And to be honest, I can't really think of a film as un-Bond-like as John Bowman's Deliverance. So,
I don't know. There's the one set in the Florida Keys. I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Roger Moore one. I can't remember what it is.
Live and Let Die, I think it is. Yeah. Actually, that would fit in. I think the bumbling sheriffs and all that would certainly, play a part. But and
the man with the golden front teeth. The man with the golden bow and arrow. I don't know. I've not really given that much thought yet.
To be fair, their Sir Roger would actually be they're sort of canoeing down that river, single-handed. He would have a Union their Jack on his boat. He would be, keeping the British end up as he was going down the river. No bother, wouldn't he? So, so I think on that note, for me, a big thumbs up for Deliverance, and thank you as always, Mark. And I will get you back on soon for more absolute nonsense.
Yeah, it's what we do, isn't it?
So thank you very much, and thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for listening to this episode of Cult Connections. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We would love it if you left a review. Follow us on Twitter at Connections Cult for more fun. Share your ideas and maybe even be on the show. Thank you.